I'll never forget this moment, doctor. A 72-year-old man named Robert was sitting at his breakfast table when suddenly his right hand froze midair. He tried to speak, but the words came out twisted, a slur of sounds that made no sense. His wife thought he was choking, but it wasn't his throat. It was his brain, starving for blood. And yet, before the ambulance arrived, Robert did something that shocked the paramedics. It may have saved his life. I know that story. He performed a simple breathing and pressure technique, one that helps push blood back toward the brain when every second matters. Most people don't even realize their body can do that. Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Howard Tucker, a neurologist and longevity doctor who spent over 7 decades studying the aging brain. And sitting across from me is one of the world's most respected physicians still practicing medicine past 100 years of age, Dr. Shigeaki Hinawara, Japan's legendary longevity expert. Thank you, Howard. I'm grateful to be here because what we're discussing today isn't theory, it's survival. Every 40 seconds, someone in America suffers a stroke. But what happens in the first 3 minutes can decide whether you walk again, speak again, or even wake up again. That's a chilling reality. And what makes it worse is that many seniors don't recognize what's happening until it's too late. They feel dizzy, maybe drop a spoon, or lose vision in one eye and think, I'll rest for a minute. But that delay can cost everything. True. But here's the hopeful side. Recent research from the University of Tokyo and Harvard Medical School shows that certain positioning and breathing techniques can temporarily stabilize blood flow to the brain while waiting for help. It doesn't replace emergency care, but it buys time. And in stroke medicine, time is brain. So, if you're over 60 and you're listening now, don't tune out. In this episode, we'll reveal the early warning. The hidden beginning of a stroke, signs your body gives you seconds before a stroke, and the scientifically proven circulation trick that can keep blood moving to your brain until paramedics arrive. It's simple, safe, and something you can learn in the next few minutes. And by the end, you'll understand not only what to do, but why it works. Doctor, before we talk about the trick itself, I think we need to understand what actually happens during a stroke. Most people imagine it as an instant blackout. But that's not always the case, is it? Not at all. A stroke often starts quietly. Think of the brain like a city powered by electricity. Every thought, every movement is a light bulb. When a blood clot blocks one of the power lines, even for a few seconds, part of the city goes dark. Sometimes that darkness lasts only minutes, what we call a mini stroke or TIA. But it's the body's loudest whisper that something worse could be coming. I like that phrase, the body's loudest whisper, because many seniors dismiss those early signals. They'll say, my arm just felt heavy for a moment. Or, I lost my balance for a few seconds. But those aren't random accidents. Exactly. Those moments are warning flares from the brain. The clot may form in the neck, the heart, or even from hardened arteries in the legs. When it travels to the brain, oxygen gets cut off and brain cells begin to die within minutes. But in the earliest phase before complete blockage, there's a brief window where the body can still compensate. That's when this circulation technique can make a difference. So, the real key is recognition, knowing when that window has opened. What are the earliest signs seniors should never ignore? Sudden numbness or weakness on one side of the body. Trouble finding words or speech that sounds slurred. A drooping face. Blurred vision. Dizziness. Or a pounding headache that appears out of nowhere. But here's what surprises most people. Those signs can appear for just 60 seconds and vanish. And when they vanish, people think they're safe. They're not. It means the clock has started. That's terrifying, but empowering too. Because if you can identify those moments, you can act fast. Precisely. Modern studies, including a 2024 review from the Journal of Stroke Medicine, found that patients who took immediate stabilizing action, like lying flat, regulating breathing, and applying the blood shift maneuver we'll discuss shortly, reduce permanent brain damage by nearly 40%. 40%. That's extraordinary. And this is why today's conversation could literally save lives. Yes, because you don't need machines or medications in that first minute. Just awareness, posture, and a calm mind that knows what to do next. And that's exactly where we're heading next. The life-saving circulation trick itself. Stay with us. All right, doctor. The blood shift maneuver. Explained. Talk about it. You mentioned something called the blood shift maneuver. It sounds almost too simple to make a difference, but from what I've read, the science behind it is remarkable. It really is. The blood shift maneuver is based on a simple principle. Gravity and breath can become your allies when blood flow to the brain is threatened. When someone suspects a stroke, every second counts. And one of the fastest ways to help the brain is to help the heart send blood upward. So this isn't about movement or pressure on the head. It's about positioning. Right. Exactly. When you feel symptoms like sudden dizziness, arm weakness, or slurred speech, don't panic. Sit or lie down immediately. The first rule is safety. Prevent a fall. Then, if possible, lie flat on your back and slightly elevate your legs around 12 inches. This simple change allows blood pulled in the legs to move back toward the chest and brain. That's incredible because it uses the body's own system. No medication, no tools, just gravity and awareness. Yes. And here's where the breathing part comes in. Slow, rhythmic breathing increases oxygen in the bloodstream. You inhale gently through your nose for about 4 seconds, hold for 2, and exhale slowly for 6. This pattern calms the nervous system and helps regulate blood pressure. 2 critical factors during a stroke. So you're saying the combination of posture and controlled breathing can actually maintain brain perfusion long enough for help to arrive. Precisely. In a 2022 study published in the Journal of Emergency Neurology, patients who used leg elevation and slow breathing during transient ischemic episodes had higher recovery rates and lower rates of brain cell death. It's not a cure, but it buys precious time. The difference between minutes of damage and months of recovery. I can imagine how that could feel in the moment. Fear, confusion, panic. Yet, what you're describing gives people a sense of control. That's the most important part. Panic steals oxygen. Calm preserves it. I always tell my patients, if you can breathe with purpose, you can think with clarity. Those few focused breaths can guide your next step. Calling emergency services, noting the time, and staying still until help arrives. That's powerful. So, the next time someone feels those early warning signs, the goal isn't to move or shake it off. It's to ground yourself, breathe slowly, and let gravity work in your favor. Exactly. Because in those moments, the simplest actions can be the most life-saving. Doctor, I can't help but think about how many seniors might hear these symptoms and still brush them off. Why is it that even when the warning signs are there, so many people hesitate to act? Because they've been taught to be tough. Many seniors grew up in a time when you didn't call for help unless it was unbearable. So when they feel their face droop or their speech slur for a few seconds, they convince themselves it'll pass. That mindset, think that quiet endurance can be deadly when it comes to how to recognize silent warning stroke. That's such an important point. It's not just lack of knowledge, it's habit. People think, I'll sleep it off, or it's just fatigue. I've seen that too often in my patients, and by the time they arrive at the hospital, that small clot has already done irreversible damage. Yes. And part of the problem is confusion between normal aging and danger. For instance, feeling lightheaded after standing up too quickly is common, but sudden dizziness while sitting still or slurred speech is not. The distinction is subtle but life-saving. So awareness is the first step. But what about practice? Is there a way to train the body or even the mind to respond automatically when those symptoms appear? Absolutely. Think of it like a fire drill for your health. You can rehearse it. Sit in a chair. Imagine the first signal. A numb hand, blurred vision. Then calmly lie back, raise your legs, and start slow breathing. It may sound simple, but it creates muscle memory. When the real event happens, your body remembers before panic takes over. That's brilliant. A calm reflex built through repetition. It reminds me of how athletes train. Not for when things go right, but for when they go wrong. Exactly. The body is intelligent. With consistent practice, your nervous system learns that calm equals safety, and that calm can preserve oxygen flow to the brain when it's most critical. It's fascinating, isn't it? We spend so much of life preparing for emergencies, fire drills, safety alarms, insurance, but almost no one prepares for a stroke, even though it's one of the most common emergencies after 60. That's what must change. Preparation is not fear, it's empowerment. And it's how seniors can stay independent even in the face of crisis. Doctor, earlier you mentioned that even a few minutes of delayed blood flow can cause damage. But what gives me hope is that the brain can still recover. I've seen patients regain speech, coordination, even memory, sometimes months after a stroke. How does that healing actually happen? The brain is remarkable, Howard. It's not a fixed machine. It's a living network. When one pathway is damaged, other pathways can learn to take over. What scientists call neuroplasticity. Rebuilding the brain. After a stroke. Think of it as traffic being rerouted after a road is blocked. The body finds detours. With the right support, those detours can become permanent highways of recovery. And that support starts early, doesn't it? Yes, the first 48 hours after a stroke are critical, but what people do in the following weeks matters just as much. Gentle movement, guided breathing, and proper nutrition all help the brain rebuild connections. Modern studies from the National Center for Geriatric Neurology in Japan show that seniors who engage in slow, rhythmic exercises, even seated movements, double their chances of regaining balance and memory compared to those who remain inactive. I love that because it shows recovery doesn't require a gym or strict therapy. It can start in a chair with intention. Exactly. Small, deliberate actions create signals. When you move a hand, take a breath, or even visualize motion. You're telling the brain, reconnect this circuit. The key is consistency. A few minutes daily is far more effective than long, exhausting sessions. What about diet? I've read that what we eat after 60 has a huge influence on blood viscosity and circulation. That's right. Foods rich in omega-3s, antioxidants, and natural nitrates help the blood flow more freely. Think salmon, leafy greens, beetroot juice, and small amounts of dark chocolate. A 2023 Harvard study showed that seniors who followed a Mediterranean-style diet had a 30% lower rate of stroke recurrence within 5 years. So even recovery is as much about nourishment as it is about therapy. Absolutely. The body repairs best when it's fueled well, rested deeply, and moved gently. And that's such a hopeful message, that it's never too late to rebuild, to retrain the body, to respond faster, heal smarter, and live longer. Yes, recovery is not a miracle. It's biology with patience. The sooner people understand that, the stronger they'll become. In our next section, we'll look at how to keep your brain stroke resistant. The daily habits that strengthen circulation and reduce risk after 60. Stay with us. Doctor, let's shift from recovery to prevention. For seniors listening right now who haven't experienced a stroke, what are the most powerful daily habits to keep the brain protected? The answer begins with circulation. If blood moves freely, the brain thrives. If it stagnates, damage begins quietly. The first and simplest habit is morning activation, getting the blood flowing within minutes of waking. I teach what I call the 3 in UT morning reset. That sounds intriguing. What does it involve? It's very simple. The moment you wake up, sit on the edge of your bed. Take 3 deep, slow breaths to expand the lungs. Then gently pump your calves, lifting your heels and toes rhythmically for about a minute. This wakes the soleus muscles, your body's second, the morning routine that protects your brain heart. Finally, rotate your shoulders and neck slowly as if you're greeting the day. It sounds basic, but studies show that seniors who perform these low-intensity movements right after waking reduce morning blood pressure spikes and improve cerebral blood flow by nearly 20%. That's remarkable, and anyone can do it. No equipment, no gym, just awareness and movement. Exactly. The brain loves rhythm. Calf pumping, deep breathing, light stretching. They're all signals to the cardiovascular system that it's time to move oxygen upward. And when you pair this with hydration, a glass of warm water before coffee, you're giving your blood the best start possible. I remember a Japanese study that found seniors who did short morning circulation routines had better memory scores over 5 years than those who didn't. It's proof that longevity isn't built in hospitals. It's built in daily rituals. Well said. And it doesn't stop there. Nutrition, sleep, and emotional calm all matter. Chronic stress constricts blood vessels, while laughter and gratitude expand them. Even something as simple as walking in sunlight or listening to music can boost nitric oxide production, which relaxes arteries and keeps them flexible. That's such an empowering image. Medicine woven into daily life. Yes, the secret isn't perfection, it's consistency. If you give your brain fresh blood, oxygen, and calm every day, you won't just lower your stroke risk, you'll sharpen your focus, improve mood, and slow aging itself. Doctor, today's conversation has been one of the most powerful we've ever had on this podcast. We've gone from that terrifying moment when a stroke begins to the calm, steady actions that can save a life before help even arrives. And it all comes down to awareness, breath, and courage. Yes, Howard, the body is never the enemy. It's always signaling. When the mouth won't form words, when a hand feels heavy, or when vision fades for a second, that's not weakness. That's communication. The body is asking for help. And if you've listened this far, you already have the tools to respond. I keep thinking about Robert, the man from our opening story. He didn't freeze. In fear. He remembered what the line that could save your life learned, lay flat, raised his legs, and began slow breathing while his wife called for help. By the time paramedics arrived, his speech had already started to return. His doctor said that simple act likely prevented permanent brain injury. That's the beauty of preparation. Knowledge transforms panic into action, and calm, deliberate action saves the brain. For everyone listening, this isn't about living in fear of a stroke. It's about living with readiness, because readiness gives you power. It gives your family peace of mind. Exactly. Aging doesn't mean decline. It means awareness. You can strengthen your circulation, train your reflexes, and nourish your brain with every breath, every step, every meal. Doctor, before we close, could you leave our listeners with one line? Something they will remember in that crucial moment? Yes. When blood hesitates, don't panic. Breathe, stay low, and let gravity help you. Simple, clear, life-saving. And let me add this. Health isn't about avoiding every crisis. It's about knowing what to do when one arrives. That's wisdom worth carrying. If you're listening right now, share this episode with someone you love, a friend, a parent, a neighbor, because the next life it saves might be theirs. Stay calm, stay aware, and remember, the body always gives you a chance to fight back. Until next time, stay well, stay steady, and keep living your best life right here on the Best Life Seniors.